Okay, now in this video we're going to be simplifying exponents. Here's how it goes. Make two lines. We have b to the third times b to the ninth. So, circle the exponents, and then make sure you know the operator. You got b, okay? And here's how this is going to work. B to the third means b times b times b. You don't know what b's value is, but you write it. B to the ninth is b times 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 b. How many factors of b is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now rather than write all those out, what can you do with 3 and 9 to get 12? What operation can you do? You don't times. 3 times 9 is not 12. 3 times 9 is 27. What could you do with 3 and 9 to get 12? Well, you can probably add. So here's how to do that without writing that down every time. Your first factor is a b, and your second factor is a b, but you're not going to repeat the factor, okay? So the first factor has a third power, plus the second factor has a ninth power. 3 plus 9 is 12. Now b to the 12th can't be simplified. So I just bring it over here and that's your answer. Okay, next one, I've got x to the third times x, okay? So there's my power, I've got a times. So the first factor is x, and then the second factor is x, but don't write the factor twice, you just take a 3. Plus, now if you don't have an exponent, you apply a first power, it's a 1 power. 3 plus 1 is 4. And that can't be simplified because we don't know what the x value is. Okay, next one. We got b. Sorry, my phone's going off. B times b to the 8th times b to the 2nd. B times b to the 8th times b to the 2nd. Okay? So, these are my powers, 8 and 2, so you have a factor of b, another factor of b, so don't write it again, and another factor of b. So it's just repeated the same factor. Okay, so b to the 1, I put a 1, okay? Then I take 1 plus 8 plus 2. 1 plus 8 plus 2 is going to be 11, so b to the 11th. Okay, now here's the next one. Okay, next thing we see. We have a parentheses. Inside the parentheses we have p to the third power, and then outside you have a fourth power. So the 3 and 4 are both exponents. Those are exponents. So really the only factor I have is a p. Now, here's how this is going to work. Watch me. Just leave that there a second. So you got p to the third to the fourth. So you're going to write p to the third power out 4 times. There's a quicker way to do it, but I want to show why it works the way it does first. And p to the third, each of these are p times p times p, times p times p times p, times p times p times p, times p times p times p. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 factors of p. P to the 12th is your answer. Now, how could you do that quicker? What can you do with 3 and 4 to get 12? I mean, do you add, is 3 plus 4 12? No. Is it minus, is that 12? No. Divide, is that 12? No. Times is 12. So, when your factor's in a parentheses with a third power, you need to multiply it, make a little rainbow, and put times the outside exponent. 3 times 4 is 12. Okay? So if you write a factor down and it's in parentheses, you have to take the inside power times the outside power. That's the answer, p to the 12th. Okay, my next problem. You have a parentheses, and inside that parentheses you have 7y. And after the parentheses you have a second power. So, circle your second power, and you're going to put, now you need to know what your operator is. 7 and y doesn't have an operator between them, so I need to put a times dot myself there. Okay. Now we have 2 factors here, 2 different factors. See, on the last page it was always just one factor. Now it's two different ones. You write 7 times y. Now let's talk about the 7. If it doesn't have an exponent, I apply a 1. And if it's in parentheses, you got to take 1 times 2. And that's 2. Now let's talk about the y. Now the y has a direct power of 1, but its 2 is in parentheses. 1 times 2 is 2. Now, you can actually simplify that here. Don't just write the same thing, because you see 7 to the second, I can figure that out. Okay? 7 to the second means 7 times 7, and that equals 49. So this becomes 49. Now the variable factor, that stays the same. 49 times y to the second. Okay, next problem. 12yz to the third power. So between 12 and y, that's a times, y and z is a times, and then 3 is the exponent. That's the only exponent. So now we have three different factors. We have a factor of 12, a factor of y, and a factor of z. Okay, now let's talk about our factor of 12. It's to the first power. So it's in parentheses, so I got to take 1 times 3. So it's 12 to the third. And then y, that's to the 1 power. 1 times 3 is 3. Z is to the 1 power. 1 times 3 is 3. Okay, 12 to the third. You can figure that out. So 12 times 12 times 12, that's 1,728. So this is replaced with the product 1,728. And the variable bases really can't simplify because we don't have number values for those. So 1,728 times y to the third times z to the third. Okay, next problem. I got a parentheses. And inside I got 5b to the fourth. And then after the parentheses has been closed, we have a third power. Times b to the third. Okay. So circle your exponents and put in your operators. So 5 and b you got times. Okay. Skip over the exponents when putting in your operators. They don't count. B and b you see times. So we have a factor of 5, a factor of b, and another factor of b. Don't write it out. If you've already written b, don't write it a second time because we have a way to just combine those. So let's talk about 5. It's to the first power. It's in parentheses, and 1 times 3 is 3. If it's in parentheses, you got to take the inside exponent times the outside. Now let's talk b. Now there's two b's. Well, let's look at our first b on the left. It's to the fourth. 4 times 3 is 12. Then I put a plus sign and go to my other b. It's a 3. 12 plus 3 is 15. And that is how the b factors are combined. You add their exponents. Now, 5 to the third I can figure out. So it's 5 times 5 times 5, and that's going to be 125. The b I can't, so times b to the 15th. Okay, next problem. I have a parentheses, and in the parentheses I have 3x to the third power, and then a second power outside times an x to the fourth power. So, line it up. These are the exponents, the originals. I might be putting some ones in there, but first those are the three exponents given. So 3 and x is times, x and x is times. So you have a base factor of 3, a base factor of x, and then a second base factor of x, so I don't write it again if it's just a repeated factor. Okay, so 3 to the 1. 1 times 2 is 2. Then x, there's two factors of x. Start with the one on the left. So 3 times 2 is 6 plus, and it's just this 4 here. It doesn't get, if it's not in parentheses, you don't have to do a rainbow. You just put what's there. So 6 plus 4 is 10. So 3 to the second times x to the 10th. Well, I can simplify 3 to the second. That's 3 times 3, and that's 9. So this switches to a 9 times x to the 10th. Okay, let's keep it rolling. We have 5y to the second times a parentheses 4y to the third, then a third outside. So 5y to the second times parentheses 4y to the third, close parentheses, and then a third outside. So the original exponents are a 2, a 3, and a 3. Okay, so the factors, 5 and y, that's times, y and 4 is times, 4 and y is times. If it's already got a dot there, don't put another one. That looks stupid. Okay. So I've got a factor of 5. I've got a factor of y. I've got a factor of 4. A factor of y, which I've already got. And that's the end of the factors. 5y, 4y. So it's just 5y, 4. So 5 to the 1, but it ain't in parentheses, so you don't multiply it. You just put a 1 down, okay? So I'm going to repeat that. If it's not in parentheses, you don't draw a rainbow and multiply it. You put it down. Y to the second, okay? Not in parentheses. Now I get to a 4, 1. That is in parentheses, so I take 1 times 3. Oh, sorry, on this y, there was 2 factors of y, my bad. So I write the 2 down, and then there's another y, so I add 3, but that y to the third, but that has to be multiplied. That's in parentheses. 3 times 3 is 9. So 2 plus 9 then is 11. Okay. So 5 to the first and 4 to the third can be simplified. 5 to the first is 5, so this is replaced with 5. 4 to the third is 4 times 4 times 4. That equals 64. And then the y to the 11th can't be simplified. Okay. Now 5 times 64 has to be multiplied. You can't leave, you have to multiply those when they're like that. 320. So you end up with 2 simplifiable factors. You need to perform the multiplication operation, the dot, the multiplication, that's 320. 320 times x to the 11th is the final answer. Okay, next one, I have a parentheses. And inside I've got 12x to the third power, then the parentheses ends, and outside you have a second power, times x to the 8th power. Okay, so 12 and x, that would be times x to the third to the second, and then times x to the 8th. Circle your exponents, you should do that right away. So the factors, ignoring the exponents, you'd have a 12, an x, and an x. So it's just 12 and x. So 12 to the 1, I put a 1. 1 times 2 is 2. Now x, you have 2 factors of x. So first you'd go with the one on the left. 3 times 2 is 6. Then plus your other x's to the 8th. It's not in parentheses, so it's 8. So 6 plus 8 is 14. Okay, now 12 to the second. That means 12 times 12, and that equals 144. So replace that with 144, and that's the only simplifiable base exponent you have. You can't simplify the x to the 14th. It would just stay the same with a times dot. Okay, next problem. We got a parentheses. Inside we have 5a to the second, b to the third. And then the parentheses ends, and you have a second. Times, parentheses 4a to the second, parentheses ends, and then a third power. Okay, so I make 2 lines because there's 2 steps I need to do. So I circle all the original powers, 2, 3, 2, a second and a third. 5 and a is times, a and b is times, b and 4 is times, 4 and a is times. See, I'm just skipping over the exponents. So I've got a factor of 5a, b, 4, and a. So I just write 5 times a times b times 4, but I don't write a again, okay? So let's talk about my 5 factor. So 5 is to the 1, but it's in parentheses, so I take 1 times 2. Now there are 2 factors of a, so we go with the one on the left first. 2 times 2 is 4. And then I plus and go look at the other factor of a, it's to the second. It's in parentheses, so it has to be multiplied. 2 times 3 is 6, so it's 4 plus 6. 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 3 is 6, and you add 4 and 6, it's 10. Okay? So a to the 10th. Now b, this is my only b factor. You have a 3, 3 times 2 is 6. Then 4, it's 4 to the first, but it's in parentheses, so 1 times 3 is 3. Now, so I have 5 to the second, a to the 10th, b to the 6th, and 4 to the 3rd. So we can simplify the 4 to the second, the 5 to the second, and the 4 to the 3rd. So 5 to the second would be 5 times 5. 4 to the 3rd would be 4 times 4 times 4. So it's 25. 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. So we have 25 times 64, 1600. Okay, first write that times a to the 10th times b to the 6th. But I do need to multiply these two, okay? So it's 1,600. If you have two of those front factors, you need to multiply them. 1,600 times a to the 10th times b to the 6th. Okay, the final problem in this video, you have a parentheses. 5x is inside. Close it, and then a third power. Times, parentheses, 2x to the second, close to the third power. Okay, so here's my powers, a third, a second, and a third. So 5 and x is times. X and 2 is times, 2 and x is times. Okay, so we have a 5 times an x times a 2. And I've already written x, so I don't repeat it. So 5 to the 1, okay? 1 times 3 would give me 3. And then x, there's two x's here. Go with the one on the left first. Here's a 1, but it's in parentheses, so you got to take 1 times 3. That's 3. Plus, because I have a second factor of x, and 2 times 3 is 6. So it's 3 plus 6, that's 9. Then my 2, it's to the first, since it's in parentheses. The 1 also that I put there also has to be multiplied by 3. If it doesn't have a power, you put a 1. Okay, so I have 5 to the 3rd times x to the 9th times 2 to the 3rd. So I got to take these numericals, the ones I can actually change, and change them. 5 times 5 times 5, and then 2 to the 3rd is 2 times 2 times 2. So 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So I have 125 times 8. And then times the x to the 9th. Okay, so 125 times 8 is 1,000. And I still have times x to the 9th. Remember to multiply those two. If there are two of them, they need to be multiplied.